thank you very much for inviting me to join you again this year. And I'm very excited to give you an update on New Zealand's progress towards smoke-free. The goal was to reach 5% or below smoking prevalence by 2025. So how are we doing? I'm going to present a few slides based on this report that was produced by SmokeFree Sweden. The URL to download this report is at the bottom of the screen. Quitting Strong, New Zealand's Smoking Cessation Success Story. So I was the lead author, and other experts around the world have contributed, including Dr. Colin Mendelsohn from Australia. We have some information in there about Sweden, and we're looking at how New Zealand's doing against, well, we talk about Sweden and also Australia. So these slides are from that report. In that report, I'm really giving you the background of how New Zealand has progressed its tobacco control program. We've had a comprehensive tobacco control program since 1990. Just picking up on what Louise said, we didn't have smoking cessation, free smoking cessation until 2000, although there was a pilot quit line tested in 1999. But from 2000, New Zealand began to roll out free smoking cessation, the quit line, and some regionally based programs. So this is where we are at 22, 23. So the stats come out in, I'm just trying to move this, that's right, in December. So we're looking forward to the Ministry of Health releasing the latest health behaviour survey data this December. But you can see here in December last year, 22-23, our daily smoking, and this shows daily smoking and vaping prevalence over the last decade. This is for 15 years and above. And we were down to 6.8% for daily smoking. So really amazing. You can see this drop off, this rapid drop off. So a decade ago, we were at 16.4. This is averaged across the whole country. Very slow, and I've been doing this for 31 years now. It's been frustratingly slow reduction, 0.51% per annum across that time, occasionally just sort of plateauing. And what we see now is this decline, 16.4 to 15.9 to 14.5. In 2015-16, that was the first health behaviour survey where they actually asked about vaping. So that's the yellow line, and you see a yellow dot there at 2015-16. And from 2017-18, we start to see the prevalence of vaping increasing. In 22-23, daily vaping was up to 9.7%. And it's a very nice graph. You see this in some other countries as well, where they've introduced tobacco harm reduction products. It might be heated tobacco products, it might be vaping, it may be that they have a range. They also have the oral nicotine products. But you see this nice sort of rapid decline in smoking and vaping, or the other tobacco harm reduction product coming up, almost looking like it's one for one there. So this has just been absolutely amazing. What happened in 2019-20, where you see now we really start to increase in vaping. The previous government regulated vaping, and they they launched a mass media campaign that came a little bit afterwards, encouraging any adults who smoked, if they could not quit any other way, please switch to vaping. This is why they've regulated it. And even the Prime Minister was on TV saying that. They also launched a vaping facts website to address the myths and some of the concerns people had that Louise has already outlined. So very exciting to be at 6.8%. Now, the next slide I want to show you is daily smoking and vaping prevalence among Māori, the Indigenous people of New Zealand, versus the New Zealand European other group. I've left out the Pacific Island group and the Asian, which is Indian Chinese population. The Asian population tend to have much lower smoking rates due to a healthy migrant effect where, they're coming in with lower smoking prevalence rates. And the Pacific Island population, they tend to sit between New Zealand European and Māori. Now, Māori have historically had very high smoking rates. So that you see the orange line versus the blue line, New Zealand European other. We've always had this disparity, 2 to 3 times the rate of smoking among Māori. And that is due to historical facts. When tobacco was introduced to New Zealand by the settlers, the whalers, the sealers, the early visitors to New Zealand from Europe, tobacco was introduced to both Māori men and Māori women. So Māori women took up smoking almost 100 years before European women did in the 1920s and 30s. So we've had both parents smoking. If you have both parents smoking, you have a much higher rate of initiation among their children. So we've always had this disparity. But what we see here, if you look at 2019-20 and onwards, a rapid decline. And the light blue line is showing the uptake of vaping among Māori. So definitely bringing that disparity down, reducing that disparity, and this is the most rapid decline, the most effective intervention that has ever occurred to reduce Māori smoking rates. So I'm very happy about that. When I started 31 years ago, Māori smoking was at 50%. Men and women, 50%. So New Zealand European were a decade ago sitting at just below 15%. So the reduction, you still see it in these later few years after vaping was regulated. You still see this reduction happening, but it's not as steep because they weren't as steep to begin with. But the green line is coming up. So again, you can see the same pattern where smoking comes down and vaping comes up. Vaping is, and the government has even said it in recent cabinet papers, this reduction is due to the uptake of vaping. Vaping is displacing smoking very effectively and nicely there. So my point with this slide is to show very much what Louise was saying with the Swap to Stop program, where you're targeting the left behind groups, the marginalized groups, the groups that don't tend to get the benefit out of the mainstream programs. And this was the case for Māori as well. Māori are overrepresented among the lower socioeconomic groups. Our 2 lowest income quintiles have the highest smoking rates in New Zealand, and we are seeing smoking coming down because of vaping. In some other countries, you don't see this among the lower socioeconomic, but we are seeing it in New Zealand, and I believe the UK are also seeing a reduction among the marginalised and lower socioeconomic groups. So my main point there is it can also reduce health inequities. So a tale of two countries, just to give you a comparison. So on the left of the slide is vaping's way less harmful than smoking. This is the government campaign, Vape to Quit Strong. They have the Vaping Facts website, and I would encourage anyone to have a look at it, where the government is addressing those myths and misinformation that is being spread about vaping. So it's coming from the government. That's very important. And it has the credibility for people to have the confidence to try vaping and to switch. In comparison, there is a poster that is from Australia. Every vape is a hit to your health. So we have New Zealand and Australia. We've always been in competition, who is winning in the tobacco control game. And New Zealand was like out in front, and then Australia got out in front, and they were leading. And now on the next slide, I'll show you where we're all at in terms of that. So this again is from that SmokeFree Sweden report, and we have a number of countries to compare there. So the yellow line is Sweden, and Sweden has been leading the race to 5% for some years. New Zealand at 6.8, we've come from behind, and we're right on the tail of Sweden. Very exciting. With one more year of data, not sure where we'll get to. We could get to 5%. Sweden could get to 5%. So it's really going to be interesting to see what happens when these stats come out. Now, Australia is the green line, and you can see it went down, it sort of increased. And I was asked last week, but they still have a decrease, even though they have taken a very restrictive approach to vaping, trying to restrict access, stopping shops from selling it. They brought in a policy that you could only get vapes on prescription from a doctor. And they're going to change that and make it that you can only get vapes from a pharmacy. Now, why is it also reduced so rapidly? Well, that's the black market. So people are accessing vapes on the black market. There are about 2 million people in Australia who vape, and some anecdotally have gone back to smoking because access has been cut off for them. Others have just gone to the illicit market. The red is the US. Again, we have a fairly restrictive environment there with the FDA managing what vapes can be sold, and they have only approved a couple. But again, there's an illicit market there, and they're also seeing a reduction in smoking as people are taking up vaping. And we have the UK, and very, great progress in the UK. Strong evidence from New Zealand and the UK and even the US that these tobacco harm reduction products are displacing smoking. I think in the UK, people can also buy heated tobacco products. Oh, we do have heated tobacco products regulated, but advertising is banned, so very few people know about those. The current government have just introduced risk proportionate tax on the heated tobacco products, so the tax has now been reduced by 50%, but no advertising, so people don't know about that product. Mainly people know about vaping. So very interesting comparison of countries there. So some points in terms of what will the future look like. If tobacco harm reduction is embraced, we will continue to see this rapid decline in smoking in the UK, New Zealand, all of these countries. Japan has heated tobacco product. You similarly see this, Korea similarly, and Iceland have all 4 products, and the USA even is showing a rapid drop in smoking. Youth in New Zealand and in the US are already below 5%, very low smoking rates now, even though there's a lot of measures to try and prevent youth from accessing vapes. The scientific evidence that tobacco harm reduction products are the predominant cause of this decline is becoming stronger and stronger. And I have a quote there from Nancy Rigotti. She, in a recent editorial, said that we have reached a tipping point in terms of the scientific evidence that e-cigarettes do help people stop smoking, especially those who are unable to quit using the approved methods. So the evidence is getting very strong there, and she says it's now time for clinicians to be advising people to switch to, she's talking about vaping. The evidence for the heated tobacco products, the oral nicotine products, is still in an early stage, but it's coming. As a result of this displacement, smoking-related morbidity and mortality will reduce. There will be a lag, but Sweden we have 30 years of epidemiological evidence from Sweden showing, well, they had snus and now they have an uptake in the oral nicotine products. They have the lowest smoking-related morbidity and mortality in the EU. So that's what we will see if countries embrace this harm reduction approach. What if prohibition is favoured? Well, the countries that have opted for a prohibitionist approach, sorry, it keeps switching on me. Sorry about that. So they're providing very clear examples of how prohibition slows the reduction of the smoking prevalence rate and thus will cause an unacceptable delay in the reduction of smoking-related deaths. They're providing evidence of the negative consequences of a prohibitionist approach. So in Australia, for example, they have had fire bombings of tobacco retailers. It's now past 100 fire bombings of tobacco retailers. There's a booming illicit market there. Problem with an illicit market, of course, is that youth may access them. The illicit market don't care about age restriction. They will sell to anybody, right? So we do have quite good proof coming from these countries that have taken this approach of what will happen. And Louise already talked about the misinformation. So unfortunately, the scientific evidence is showing that the negative information about nicotine and about the greatly reduced harm of tobacco harm reduction products compared to continuing to smoke, it's spreading, it's getting worse. More and more people are believing this negative misinformation, and this is slowing what is basically a mass exodus of people from smoking to tobacco harm reduction products or to quitting. And many people who go on to these products, it is a transitional step and they go on to stop both. This whole area of negative misinformation needs urgent research and policy attention. If the smoking death toll of 7 to 8 million a year is to be reduced as fast as is now possible, we can see it in these countries that have adopted tobacco harm reduction, how fast we can reduce smoking prevalence. In my disclosures, I've never received funding from any tobacco or vaping companies. I have in the past, long time ago, received fees from pharmaceutical companies for consultancy on cessation medicines. Through to the 1st of September, the research that my centre did was funded with grants from Global Action to End Smoking, formerly known as the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World, and they're an independent US non-profit grant-making organisation. I nor my centre we have no commercial interests in nicotine or tobacco products, and the opinions I've expressed today are my own. Thank you. And on the end, I've just put my latest publication, which is a a guideline on how to conduct a community-based participatory survey. This is particularly aimed at communities that want to find out and work at a community level. So I've just put that there for everybody's information. Thank you.